Well, how did that month treat you? Month off of UFC.
Oh man, it seemed like forever.
it should, that shit seems like forever, especially in this COVID climate. It's like, fuck, dude. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to pass by the time.
Yep,
Fuck. Well,
pretty
we're
sucks.
finally here. We are, what, 6 days away from the card here. So
6 days? No, it's less.
less than that.
Yeah,
Well, I lied. Yeah, we have.
like 4 days, three.
Yeah,
Three.
it's Tuesday right now. So we have a card on the 16th, Saturday 16th, and then there's like a 3 day break, and then you have another card on the Wednesday the 20th, and then we have UFC. What is it? UFC 257 with McGregor and Poirier on the following Saturday. So within a 7 day span, we have 3 cards to break down and opportunity to make some money on. How
Yeah,
do you feel about that?
I feel good. I mean, there's nothing that I want to go big on, but there are plenty of fights that I want to bet on.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So we're gonna be breaking down UFC on ABC One, which is their first card on ABC. Holloway versus Kattar. This Saturday. From a fan's perspective, and then from a betting perspective, how do you rate this card from a fan's perspective?
For this weekend, from a betting perspective, I would say it's about like a 6.5 out of 10.
Or from a betting perspective?
Yeah, from a
Uh,
betting perspective.
from a fan perspective?
From a fan perspective, I would say maybe maybe like a 6 out of 10.
Okay. For me, from a fan perspective, I like it just because on paper, a lot of these cards they look like they're going to be coming to bank. So like on paper, I think it's going to be providing some good entertainment value.
Yeah.
You got you got some pretty good like bangers on here just on paper. From
Yeah.
a betting perspective, it doesn't really jump out at me too much, so I wouldn't rate it too highly myself either. But nonetheless, we're gonna go through anyways. Everybody's starving for some MMA, so here we are.
Yeah.
Why don't you from at first glance, what are some bets that you're already planning on or already have played on this card so far?
That was actually just what I was opening up. Shoot, let me well, one bet that I made like a month ago when I was in Vegas, right before I left Vegas, was I had a 3-team parlay, but it got turned into a 2-team parlay because one person from a different card got moved to another card. So I have a 2-team parlay with Emiev, the Russian dude,
Yes.
the Russian installer. I have him parlayed with Armin Surukian on the Wednesday card. So I
Sure.
have so I have that. So I got 300 for 351. And then for my bets that I've made online since I've been home, they include I have Nasruddin Imavov at plus 156. Did you want me to tell you the lines or just tell me? So,
You can just kind of breeze through it. We'll go through the lines after.
okay. So I have Nasruddin Imavov. I have and then I have a parlay that I'll get to later. And then I also have something on the Matt Brown Carlos Condit fight, and I have a Ponzi bet, and that's
Hmm.
about it.
Okay. For me, man, like, hey, wait a minute, hold on. You mentioned Omari Akhmedov is not on this card anymore.
Correct. He got moved to I think the Wednesday card.
Ah, well, he was one of my bets on this card. But I don't know. I mean, if we're not gonna go through it, then I guess we can break it down on the next card if that's the case.
Yeah,
Um,
it says they got moved to the Chiesa versus Magny card, which is the
three
Wednesday
days
card.
later. So I wonder what
Yeah.
the heck is the reason why.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to find out in the next breakdown. I mean, it doesn't matter anymore, I guess. But that was one of my bets too. I got the main event going over 4.5.
Hmm.
It might be like one of those heart attack specials, but I do think both guys are too tough to get finished.
Yeah.
Um, and then I put a little bit of money on Dusko Torovic when they were at negative 110 apiece. I didn't put too much on it though, just because I still kind of don't know too much about either guy, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I had money on Omari, and then I did put a little bit of money on a prop on Amiv by decision.
Hmm.
And then I also put a little bit of money on Lingo and Jacob Kilburn to not go all 3 rounds. So I do think they're gonna finish each other, and I think I got that at plus 125. So, but right now it's already dried up to negative 125. So, yeah, those are my initial picks. But everything else, I'm planning on playing a little bit of action just because I kind of want some action. But I'm not too high on as far as making recommended bets. So, but let's just break it down anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll start off from the bottom. You know what? I'm not sure which is the first fight of the night here because each website has different like lineups. So
Yeah, we have Jacob Kilburn versus Lingo, Austin Lingo
okay.
first.
Kilburn and Lingo. Lingo is negative 225. We come back and Kilburn is plus 185. I don't think either guy is UFC level. However, I do think these two guys are going to clash and they're going to swing until somebody goes down. I think that's how the fight is going to play out. And if the fight's going to play out like that, I do think that they're going to finish each other. I don't think Lingo just comes in there to throw heavy shots, and Kilburn does the same thing, throwing heavy shots. And neither of them are kind of wrestlers or like stallers or any of that matter. So I think they're just going to meet in the middle and just throw until somebody gets knocked out. So I do think this fight will go under, or the fight will finish each other. So that's my prediction on this one.
Yeah, and I don't really know much about these two guys except for their one. So basically, both of them fought once in the UFC, and that's all I know about them. Lingo, he was a favorite. I don't know if he was. I don't know if he was what minus 200. I don't know. He was a decent sized favorite in his UFC debut. He got owned, and then the other dude, Kilburn, was that a short notice fight? I don't remember, but against Billy Q, and he didn't look good in that fight either.
Yeah.
So
Right.
aside from that, I don't really know anything about these dudes, so I can't really make a pick.
Right. Which is understandable. I don't think anybody really does, but from the little that I've seen of them, it looks like they're just here to bang. So that's what it looks like. It can be a finish. So um, yeah, it's hard to pick either way. Next fight is a women's fight. Yeah, Sarah Moras versus Vanessa Mello. I'm probably not gonna break this down just because this is like beyond not UFC level. So I don't know. You tell me. Oh, wait a minute. One of the girls, Sarah Moras, is a big favorite. Negative 230 over, and then come back on the other chick is plus 190. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I'm surprised that like both of these
That girl should never be a favorite over anybody like that much.
like neither of them should be in the UFC right now.
Yeah.
What's her face? Mello, she's on a 3-fight losing streak. She's 0-3 in the UFC.
One girl 6-6, and Mello is 10-8, and
Yeah.
Sarah Moras is 6-6.
So basically Mello is a let me talk about the heights real for a second. So we have Mello who's 5'5", and we have Sarah Moras who is 5'7". We have Moras is going to have a large size and strength advantage in this fight, but and she's going to have the size and the strength, and she's going to have the grappling advantage and also the wrestling advantage here. Her striking is not great. Mello has a striking advantage, but Mello's striking isn't great either. Mello is shorter, and she has like what's the dude's name? What's that dude who is popular because he trains with John Jones? The dude who has a weak chin. You know what I'm talking?
Devin.
Yeah,
Clark?
the Honey Bear or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, they got the film.
Vanessa Mello has thick legs like Devin Clark, and she's short, and she's not easy to take down, but I think Moras is she has like kind of sneaky takedowns. She knows how to get people down, even though she's not super technical. And she's also training at she's now training at Extreme Couture for this fight, and they've been on like they've been killing the game for like the past year or so.
Yeah.
So I think that Moras is going to win. I will definitely not bet the money line, or maybe I'm sure I'm going to bet at like some way, but I'm not going to bet the money line. Maybe her decision. I haven't looked at it yet, but either way, I think Moras is going to win this fight. If it somehow stays on the feet, I'll take Mello. But so like Mello has better cardio, and Moras is known for gassing, but that's when she's getting into like scramble scrambles basically, and Melo's not going to take her down. So I don't think she's going to really gas in this fight. So I think Moraes is going to win. I just don't really know if I'm going to bet it or not.
Mm. Yeah, well, should be a pretty ugly fight. So
Mm-hmm.
but the next one should be well, actually, the next one you got Ramazan Ami versus David Zawada, and I'm sure Ami's gonna make it look ugly here. So uh Amiv is the favorite, negative 255, and the comeback on Zawada is plus 215. I'm with you here on Amiv. I think he's going to win by decision. Um, he's really good at like you mentioned earlier, being very boring. So one of his skill sets that he has helped him get racked up this many wins is he's got a really good ability to put you against the fence and just kind of grind you out from there. He's really looking to just tie you up any way he can. Even if he'll shoot like a double or a single, and then if he doesn't get it, he'll work his way back up and then clinch up with you and push you against the fence and just go to work from there. And staying busy enough so that way the referee doesn't come in and you know break you apart, but he just stays busy enough so where he kicks your thighs, punches you in the clinch, and he'll just rinse and repeat and make it a really boring fight. But very boring, but very effective way to win. So um, I don't see Zawada having the skill set to stop that from happening. From me, just kind of giving him a steady diet of clinch punches and stuff. So Zawada, I mean, watching him fight, I don't think he's a very good prospect. I think he's just kind of a run the mill like Eastern European fighter. Where's he from here? Well, anyways, yeah. His footwork's not very good. I see him crossing his feet a ton. He leaps into the pocket with, I just don't like his footwork, and I don't think he's offensively potent enough to give Ramazan any issues here. Also, his takedown defense isn't very good either, and he's like willing to pull guard. He's kind of willing to like do sacrifice throws, which I don't like. That doesn't work, at a high level like this. So, yeah, give me Ramazan Ameev with control time by decision.
Yeah, we have David Zawada, the pride of Germany. Yeah, and we have Ramazan Amiv. Actually, I mean, he's definitely Amiv is not high level, but he's definitely skilled at what he does, and he knows how to win. And his takedowns are actually he can get takedowns against the fence, but he could also get him in the I guess the center or anywhere that's not against the fence, which is a good thing for him because um, there's certain guys who are like just good at wrestling; they could get takedowns anywhere, and then there's a lot of MMA wrestlers who just need to get people against the fence to get that type of takedown. He could get both of them. So I really like him to get a takedown, or takedowns plural here. And I don't think that Zawada's jujitsu or like basically his submissions, I don't think his submissions are going to be a problem for Amiv because
Yeah,
he's his style is him always being on top, and so he's had to deal with jujitsu guys before. So yeah, I mean it's pretty straightforward. I like Amiv here, and as I mentioned earlier, I have him in a 2-team parlay with Armin Surukin, who fights a few days later for 300.
okay. Is there any do you think Ameev could finish this fight?
I mean, I think he could finish. Anyone could finish anyone, but I think Zawada is a tough German who's not gonna give up to the power, like the GNP power that
Right.
Amiv has or doesn't have, lack thereof.
I think the only way this fight finishes is if Zawada like gasses out, because he does seem to like, it looks like he gasses.
Mhm.
So I don't know, but uh yeah, I'm gonna stick with my pick with the division for me. So okay, and then the next fight up, Mr. Heavyweights, it's Carlos Felipe versus Justin Tafa. Um, both of them have a common opponent in what's his name? What's that big dude's name? Oh, Jorgen De Castro, and one of them has a knockout loss to him, and the other one has a decision win over him. So Uh, Felipe is the favorite at negative 185 to come back on top at plus 160. On paper, from what I've seen, it looks like Felipe is a more skilled fighter. Throws a ton of volume, goes to the body, doesn't rely too much on his power, but kind of is a little more skilled than Tapa. But then again, they're heavyweights, and also I don't really know too much about either guy, so I can't really give out a prediction for this fight. I'm going to lean towards Felipe just because he throws a ton of volume, and he also, like I said, he have a common opponent, and he has a decision win over him. So I'm going to go with Felipe here, but not recommended play on either side just because they're big heavyweights and they're not top 10 guys. So yeah.
Yeah, I love this fight. For the side of Felipe. Um, we, as far as how Tafa fights, he's basically a much younger version and size wise as like same body type, same around similar height, and looks even and same fighting style, same weight as Mark Hunt. Maybe a little slimmer than Mark Hunt because
Yeah,
Mark
I believe
Hunt's,
he's a southpaw. That's the only difference.
um,
So yeah.
but yeah, he's basically the younger version, and he even trained. He trained. I don't think Mark trains anymore, but he trained with Mark Hunt at some point in time. So he's basically a younger Mark Hunt, and that means he's basically all power and nothing else. We don't have to worry about kicks here we being Felipe backers, we don't have to worry about kicks. We don't have to worry about technical boxing. We don't have to worry about wrestling or jujitsu, and he's not super high output either. Whereas not even super high output. He's like at best he's like medium output striker. He's more like a lower output striker, one big bomb at a time. Sometimes a two punch combo, but mostly one big punch. Anyway, so Felipe is going to be I think they're both 6 foot. Let me double check. Yeah, they're both 6 feet tall, and they're both young. They both look old as fuck, but Tafa's 27. He looks like 38 or something, and
Mm.
Felipe is only 26, and he looks older too. Um, Felipe is going to be heavier, and he's going to have the size advantage. He's going to have the technical boxing advantage and way more output, and he's more aggressive. He has I don't know what his jujitsu skills are, so I'm not going to say anything about the grappling, but if it does get there, if it does get to the ground, it's going to be Felipe. But I'm not even adding that to my capping. But I really love this fight for Felipe. I was just waiting to see what was going to happen with the line, and what is it at now? It was at like minus 200, then minus 190 ish, and now it's at earlier today. It was at one minus, or I guess it was yesterday. It was at minus 175. Now it's at minus 185. Um, people for some reason like Tafa, like in general. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's the Mark Hunt affiliation, but yeah, Tafa's going to get owned here. I think Felipe is actually going to win a decision just because
Mm.
he's a mini Mark Hunt, which means he could take a lot of damage. I've been making a bunch of random parlays and with Felipe by decision, but I'm gonna bet. I'm gonna be betting Felipe by decision, money line, not money line. Felipe decision, straight up in a minute here. Right now, it's currently at plus 220. It
Yeah.
opened at plus 250, then it got bet down to 180. Yeah, plus 180 is what I saw it at, but now it's at plus 220 again. So I'm gonna be betting that in a minute after I'm done talking, and depending where that money line goes, I might even just go make a bigger bet, like a large bet on his money line. If it gets down to like something like minus 160 or even lower, then I'm going to be betting a nice chunk on Felipe here. That would be like the only big bet that I have on this card. Um, but yeah, I think Felipe's gonna just outclass him, and he has a good chin too. So he's a tough Brazilian kid. He has a tough chin. So and he has good movement too. So I'm not really worried about him getting knocked out here, even though it's obviously Tafa's only path to victory. But I'm not really worried about that in this matchup. So give me Felipe all day at um, minus 185 money line and plus 220 decision.
Okay. Yeah. I'm I'm not mad at that pick. So They are heavyweights, so that's the only thing that's kind of scares me. But I was actually like, in my head leaning towards the decision too. So um, just because I just seeing Felipe style, he fights with a ton of volume and not too much power. So all right, next fight. You guys know my disposition behind low level female fights. I don't know anything about either girl, so I mean, do you?
Oh, hold on 1 second.
It's Wu Yunan versus Jocelyn Edwards. Yunan is the favorite. No, they're even odds, -1 cent apiece. I don't know anything about them too, so
Give me. Yeah. So the Edwards girl, she's a short notice fighter. I don't know anything about her. And Yanan Wu, she hasn't fought in a while either, so maybe it'd be a pass.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, do you really want to put yourself through the strain of watching tape on either girl?
No,
It's like a million better things to do.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna skip that one. So uh, next fight is I think the prelims headliner. This is one of the fights that you like here. It's Philip Haas versus Nasruddin Imavov. Imavov is a Dagestani, if I'm not mistaken, but he's actually from France and he's not fighting out of Dagestan. The odds on that is Haas is favored at -135. Comeback on Imavov is plus 115. Me personally, I don't know how to go about this fight. I I can't say I know too much about either guy, except I mean I know about Phil Haas. I've seen him a couple of times now. I've seen him on the Contender Series. Obviously, everybody kind of remembers him from getting head kicked by that Cuban dude. I forget his name again. Um, and but from what I've read, is that Philip Haas had a ton of hype behind him in the past, training with Greg Jackson's crew. He's a little bit older now though. He's 32 years old now, so I don't know if he's still labeled a prospect or not. But he's not that experienced. But from what I understand, is he has a wrestling background and he has a ton of power. I think most of his knockouts are in the first round too. So um, Imavov, I've seen one of his fights against Jordan Williams, but for some reason I still can't remember it. I remember watching the fight. I just don't remember what his skill set is like. Um, but he's a young dude. Um, he looks like I remember him throwing some pretty good accurate shots, with not too much mustard behind it though. So I'm guessing it's going to be one of those things where if Imavov can outlast him, maybe he takes the win, and then Phil Haas, uh, if he wins, is going to be early just because we've seen Phil Haas throw with a ton of power and gas out and then get himself finished. So um, I have no no clue on how to pick this one. So I'll leave that to you.
I like this fight as well. I like. Am I still muted, or can you hear me?
Not me.
All right, cool. So I like this fight. Not like a whole lot, but I do like it. We have Phil Megatron Haas. He's 5'11", and he used to train at John Jones's gym. Oh, what's it called? Uh, Jackson Wink. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jackson Wink. Yeah. So he used to train there, and around the time when he got head kicked on that show, the Dana White show, he was training there, and then he moved over to Sanford MMA with all those dudes.
Yeah.
The used to be, it's like the third name they've been using. What was
Yeah,
like
Henry
Maxillians.
True.
Yeah, basically. So he's been training with them for a little while, maybe a year or 2 years. Um, so he trains there, and then Nasruddin Imavov, he is 6'3". So I think I just mentioned Phil Haas' height. So he's 5'11", and then he's 32 years old. And Nasruddin Imavov, he's 25 years old, and he's 6'3". So he has a 7-year age advantage. So he's like younger, and then he has a 4-inch height advantage. He trains at MMA Factory in France. His trainer is, I forgot the dude's name. It sounds like a Spanish name, but basically it's the same guy who trains. Oh God, why am I having a blank all of a sudden? Francis Ngannou used to train there. And now, Cyril Gahn. He trains with Cyril Gahn. That's his main training partner.
Wow.
And they have a very similar, like, if you ever watch them fight, like they both move similarly, and their striking style is similar. Imavov, he has a submission. He has a submission game which sets him apart from Cyril Gahn. It's he has a pretty decent submission game. I think this fight's actually going to end for either dude under 1.5 rounds. If you happen to look at their fight, or if you ever happen to look at their record and then look at how they fight, they're both finishers, and they both kind of put pressure on their opponents early. Let me see here. We have Imavov, who is 9-2. He has 7 finishes and 2 decision wins, and then his losses are 1 sub loss and 1 decision loss. He does have the tall man syndrome at some points. At some points he has good movement, but then sometimes he has poor head movement. So it's kind of like on and off. So I guess he's just perfecting it. He's still a young dude. But his first, let's see, he has 3 wins. His first 3 wins are in round 1. Sorry, his first 4 wins are in round 1. Then his 5th win was in a decision. Then his next 1, 2, 3 wins were in the round 1. And then when he fought Jordan Williams, the only reason that went to a decision is because Jordan Williams has a crazy, crazy, crazy chin. He's the dude who is not able to cut weight and fight at a lower weight class because he has some type of issue, like some I don't know if it's considered a sickness, but basically he doesn't want to cut weight because it's bad for his health. So, but anyways, that dude has a crazy, crazy chin. He got hit so many times clean, and he was still able to take everything. Whereas Phil Haas, he's a gasser. His cardio is not good. He goes for that quick finish, and if he can't get it, he's in trouble. He's not technical, but he does have power, and he does have the wrestling advantage here. So if he's smart, well, that remains to be seen. If he's smart, he's going to go and go for a takedown. But if he's going to fight like how he's always fought, then he's going to go for a knockout. He's going to sling some leather in that first round, and he is either going to he's going to basically either land and get the finish, or he's going to get clipped. I'm thinking that Imavov could like TKO him at any point in the fight, but I think he might actually sub him here. So, but I've been taking Imavov. I have Imavov his money line here actually, as I was trying to mention earlier. I have Nasruddin Imavov plus 156, 156. I got that a while ago. I put 100 on that, and I also like Imavov to win inside the distance at, I think it was like at plus 330 or something like that. Let me open up my props lines here.
270 right now.
I have a list here of some props that I like. When I got it, it was Imavov inside the distance at plus 330. And then Felipe was plus 220 decision. And then also I bet I already have a 100 on Imavov and Haas under 1.5 at plus 125. Now I think it's at minus money now or something like that. But yeah, so I like the fight to end under 1.5. And but I just like Imavov because he's the more skilled fighter. He's younger. He has a higher ceiling. He just basically he has to worry about getting clipped, and if he doesn't get clipped, then he's good to go. And I think that if he plays it smart and he keeps his Cyril Gahn-esque stance, and I think he could just basically move away from that first heavy shot, because that's that Haas just throws that one big overhand, and that's pretty much it. If he doesn't land with that, then Imavov should win all day here. So yeah, give me Imavov at plus money. He's still at plus money the last time I checked. So give me Imavov at plus 156 is what I got him, but right now he's at plus 115. So his line keeps dropping. So yeah, plus odds, Nasruddin Imavov all day. Book it.
Okay, well, I'm probably just gonna sit back and watch it just because I'm scared. I'm scared of Phil Haas. He looks like a scary guy.
Oh, because that's the thing. I mean, that's why people have him as a favorite because they don't know shit about Imavov. And then you have Phil Haas. He's super muscly. He's got those big muscles, and he's black explosive. But it's the same thing we've seen years and for over like so all we see it all the time. We saw it with plenty of guys. I can't even think right now, but we've seen it with plenty of dudes, and I always make money in all these spots.
Yeah.
If you're gonna take Haas, what's his TKO line? Let me see here. His TKO line is KO TKO line is plus 135. So if you're gonna take Phil Haas, he's not gonna win. He's not gonna win a decision here. His cardio is not good enough for that. Even if he gets the takedown in round one, it's his cardio is gonna he's gonna be forced to work. He's not gonna just be able to lay there in guard for 5 minutes. So he's gonna get his money line is at plus 135 now. It opened up at minus 185, so the public is going on towards Imavov. So if I was gonna take Phil Haas, I mean I would only take him, um, to finish.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like he's coming to finish. So.
Oh, did I even mention his finishing? He has 9 wins and 2 losses.
Yeah, nine finishes, right?
Yeah. So all of his 9 wins are inside the distance, and all of his 2 losses, or both of his 2 losses, are by finish, by knockout and submission.
Right.
So
To kill, pretty much.
yeah, and all of his. Oh yeah, the last thing I'm going to mention on this fight, all 11 of Phil Haas's fights, all of them ended under 1.5. His wins and losses.
Looks like it's gonna be a banger.
Yeah. All right, let's go.
Okay. Next fight is Puna Soriano versus Dusko Todorovic. The odds were even when they opened, and then money's coming in on Dusko, and now he's negative 155, and then to come back on Soriano is plus 135 here. My initial thought was I kind of liked what I saw from Dusko. And so I put a little bit of money on it, not too much. It was just a kind of action bet, just because I was bored. But now that I kind of think about it, I really don't know too much about either guy, to be honest. Like, and neither guy really tested too much either, so I can't recommend like too much of a big play on this card on this fight. I mean, from what I saw from Dusko is that he's pretty well rounded. He's got some good takedowns, some good wrestling, some good jiu-jitsu, some good passing ability. His boxing looks pretty good. And from what I read about him, he does have a taekwondo background as well, so he's got some kicks. You can kind of see his taekwondo style just because he likes to fight with his hands down and focus on his and he moves his head a lot. So the difference I think in this fight is going to be that I think Dusko has better footwork than Puna Heli. I think Puna is the type of guy that's just gonna march forward and throw that big, heavy left hand just because he's a southpaw and right hook. So that's kind of the only two things that I see from him is that he's got a really powerful left hand, a good right hook, and then if those two moves don't work, and then he goes for the takedown. So those are the three things that he's kind of looking to do. But he just kind of moves forward, and that's kind of his only angle he comes at you with. And I think Dusko has a little bit more better footwork, so he's able to. I think he's going to be able to dodge some of the punches and work his, work angles and should they get into a clinch situation, I think Dusko works pretty well in the clinch. I think Dusko on top would be pretty dangerous. I think both guys on top are actually pretty good when it comes to dealing damage. Man, I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to lean with the Dusko here just because, like I said, the main factor for me attributing to his pick is I like his footwork better than Puna's, and Puna kind of just is pretty flat-footed. So give me Dusko in this pick. But like I said, I'm not too confident in it.
Yeah, I've never seen Punahele Soriano fight before. Actually, no, I did. Sorry, I did see him that fight in his last fight and against Oscar Piachota. I seen it. I just don't remember it, so I'll have to go back and watch it.
Put him out
Uh,
like a sack of potatoes.
um, and the Todorovic, Dusko Todorovic. I've only seen that one fight, his debut against Daquan
2
Townsend, and
Chainz. He fought against 2 Chainz.
yeah,
Yeah.
and people are using. I've listened to some. I've listened to other videos, and I've read some breakdowns online, and people are referencing that fight against Daquan Townsend as if that actually means anything. I actually just take it out of the whole capping because like literally Daquan Townsend just always just allows himself to get put against the fence and the cage, and he has no takedowns, he has no grappling, he just stands there. So um, Todorovic's win over Townsend means zero to me, um, aside from him getting his octagon jitters out of the way in an easy paycheck. Um, so I don't know who's gonna win this since I don't really know much about either dude, except for I know that Punahele he trains over at Extreme Couture with all those dudes. There's a lot of good people on there. I mentioned that earlier. They're on a winning streak, and his main training part. I don't know about his main, but one of his training partners is Dan Ige, and Ige knows a bunch of people, and they have a bunch of people who always go in and out of that gym like top fighters because they're the main gym in Las Vegas. So they're always getting people who want to train at random times. So right now, I'm gonna end up putting just like a small bet on Soriano. I'm just waiting for his line to keep growing, but that's only because who he trains with and where he trains, and because he's plus odds, and not because I know anything about him.
I
So,
mean, Dusko does have a win over what's his face, Michelle Pereira.
oh, that dude.
Yeah, so
I mean, he again, he's big for the weight class, and he has muscles, and that's pretty much it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, really tough to call. So, all right, next fight is Joaquin Buckley versus Alessio Di Chirico. Buckley's a huge favorite and negative 265. The comeback on Di Chirico is plus 225. Is it a coincidence that any Italian fighter that comes into the UFC, their name is Alessio? What are the odds, huh? Alessio must be the John in Italian in Italy or something. Anyways, let me digress. I don't really have much of a pick for this fight. I wouldn't take Buckley at negative 265, even though the Kiriko isn't really kind of a middle of the pack middleweight. This is middleweight, right? Yeah. I mean, on paper, I'm going to pick Buckley to win just because he looks a little more promising, and he definitely isn't afraid to pull the trigger like Kiriko is. So I'm going to pick him to win here, but I wouldn't bet on Buckley at negative 65. I don't like that. However, um, I maybe might want to throw a little bit money on like Buckley by decision, possibly just because like I mentioned, Kirko sometimes tends to not pull the trigger, and Buckley does pull the trigger. And then also the fact that Kirko hasn't been knocked out before. He came pretty close in that last fight though. I forgot who it was against, but I remember him getting close to getting knocked out. Against another southpaw too. At that. Um, I'm gonna take Buckley by decision at plus 665, just to sprinkle a little bit of change on it, but it's not like a recommended pick or anything like that. And yeah, that's about it. I really don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, same thing. I was gonna take like I don't know. This might be one of those fights where it's like the only one I actually don't bet on because I think that Buckley will win. I mean, he could get a knockout, but I think if he like, I'm leaning towards the decision as well, since Alessio has never been finished, and that guy he fought in his last fight was Zach Cummings, right?
Yeah.
Um, so his hands are actually decent, Zach Cummings, whereas I like the kicks of the variation of kicks of Buckley better than his hands. So Buckley's hands are like okay, I guess. Nothing special. He's not technical or anything. He's got power, yeah. But he's not technical.
He's
Whereas
kind of a shorter dude too. Actually,
yeah,
I'm looking right now, and it says he's 5'8", and
yeah,
Kirko's 6 foot.
yeah, he's super short. He's just like super thick is the deal. He's
Yeah.
he's kind of like what's his face, Lombard, Hector Lombard.
Mm.
But anyway, yeah,
Buckley.
I do think Buckley will win. But I might put some money on his decision. But I might not and just pass on it. But I do think he's gonna win. I just don't really know how. And I don't know. I just don't feel interested in this fight too much. It's basically a step down for Buckley. I mean,
Mm.
yeah, it's like the name value. Alessio is like a name value. It's stepping up, I guess, for Buckley. But he's on a DeChirico's on a 3-fight losing streak, so he shouldn't
Yeah.
even be in the UFC. So
Yeah. So it's for him is make it or break it. So just
yeah,
maybe comes out on fire because this is gonna be his last moment. If he doesn't win here, then he's gonna get cut.
look at the three. Look at the last 3 dudes he's fought. They're all, or not all, but he fought Kevin Holland. He's
Wasn't
a
that a close fight too, or no? I remember it being
I,
kind of a close fight.
it kind of was, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was one of those brain farts from Holland. Um, and then he fought. So he lost to Kevin Holland. Then he lost to Mahmoud Muradov. That's that dude who is
Yeah.
sponsored by Money Mayweather. And then he lost to Zach Cummings. So the first 2 dudes are like actually like legit prospects, whereas Cummings is like on his way out. Um, but yeah, so
Yeah.
I'll take Buckley,
Okay.
but I'll probably pass on it.
Okay. The next fight is gonna be another a pretty good fight. It's gonna be a banger. We have the Leech, Li Jingliang versus Santiago Ponzinibbio, Mr. Ponzi Scheme himself.
Hmm.
Um, the odds are pretty wide though. You have Ponzi Scheme at -280, and the comeback on Leech is +240. Should be a banger, man. Like I said, both these guys are kind of mirror images of each other. One's the Argentine version, one's the Chinese version, but they're clearly both of them are here to bang. Um, I can't see the fight going any other way. The Leech, he tends to get. I mean, like most of his fights, you see him get clobbered somehow, somewhere. And whether he comes back or not is up to him. And uh, like it's hard to not imagine him getting clubbed here by Santiago, but I can see both of them kind of getting their licks in and kind of getting their shots in. Um, I mean, my pick is going to be Ponzinibbio, but like in a very volatile fight where 2 guys are just swinging leather, I can't bet. I can't recommend a bet on it like that. So yeah, I'm gonna pick Santiago, but at -280, that I can't bet on 2 guys going into a firefight. And recommending a safe play like that. So uh, yeah, man, that's what I'm gonna do here. I'm just gonna watch it.
I think this fight is like I'm not really sure why Jingling took this fight because it's a short notice fight for him. Uh, what's it called? Santiago Ponzinibbio was supposed to fight Muslim Salikov, uh, and what's it called? The Leech he took this fight on December 21st. So it's basically less than a month away. Sorry,
Mm.
it's less than a month notice. And he is known for fighting. He's known for not doing well outside of China. The Leech. He loses when he fights outside of China.
Yeah,
Um,
but they're like fighting in Abu Dhabi, so it's kind of close to China. I mean, it's not too far of a travel for him.
I guess.
Kind
So,
of neutral ground. So
but so you have that. He's taking it on short notice. He doesn't fight that well out of China. And he is not going to get the takedown here. He's not as fast. That's the main thing is the speed, and um, that's where the Leech is going to get knocked out. I think he's going to get knocked out due to not just the power, but the speed at which Ponzinibbio is going to come at him. There'll probably be some dry spots from both dudes, but like it's gonna be dry up until the point where Ponzinibbio connects on him. Leech throws. Mm, he throws like kind of like brawling hooks at times, and he does. I think even in his last fight, he like held out both of his arms like, "Come on!" And then he'll have his arms out like that, and then he'll throw those wild type of hooks with his arms out like that, and that's how he throws his punches. They're always wild shots, and they have some power if they connect, but he's not technical. And whereas Ponzinibbio, he has some kicks. He could throw straights really fast and hooks, and he's just overall faster with his hands and feet. So I think that we're going to see Ponzinibbio come off of his, was it 2 years? It's going to be, he hasn't fought in a little over 2 years, like 2 years and 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to return off of his 2 year, 3 month absence, and he's going to knock this dude out and send
You
him
know what's
back
really
to,
crazy to me?
huh?
That what's really crazy to me is that the way that Leach fights, like he comes to bang, you know.
Hmm.
And I'm looking at his record right now, and he's actually never been knocked out before. But he's been knocked down a ton.
Hmm. Yeah,
I remember him getting knocked down a lot of times against like multiple people. But
yeah.
he's never been knocked out before. He's been submitted once, which is by Keita Nakamura. I remember that pretty crazy submission. But other than that, he's never been finished before, so it's kind of surprising. But uh, I I mean, what if this fight goes to decision?
I mean, so I mean,
But you know
let's
what? The
let.
odds are ugly. You know what? Like the odds, it says fight go decision is plus 110. Like if you gave me plus 200, I'll take it. But at this price, no, thank you. Like
Yeah.
that's a heart attack on the stick, you know.
Yeah. Let's look at the dudes he's fought. All right, the Leech. All right, so he fought David Machad. Okay, so that's not, that's 6.5 years ago. Over that, and that, he's not really a good fighter. He fought Nordine Taleb about 6 years ago. Nordine is a guy who stands straight up. He's a decent technical striker, but he's not fast. He's not super fast, and he doesn't press forward, like he doesn't have the same type of aggressive fighting style. He's like, he'll stand straight up, whereas um, Ponzinibbio is the type to like come straight forward and put that pressure on you. Um, uh, Nordine is a totally different type of striker. And then he fought Diego Lima, who was super chinny back in the day, and somehow his chin got better, and he's actually on a win streak, I think, in the UFC. Diego Lima, Keita Nakamura, who's a grappler slash Japanese brawler, dude. I don't know, whatever. And he fought Anton Zafir. Who knows? Bobby Nash is the only cool thing about him was his nickname was Nashty, so Bobby Nashty. Um, and he's been gone for a while. He was super chinny. He fought Frank Camacho, who is a brawler. He throws a lot. He's a banger, but he doesn't have a bunch of power, and he's a 155er anyway, who fights at 170. He fought Zach Otto, he was okay, but he wasn't like a heavy puncher. He fought Jake Matthews, he doesn't have power in his hands. He fought Daichi Abe, who's a grappler, I think. He's not in the UFC anymore. He fought David Zawada, who is not powerful. Then he fought Zaleski dos Santos, who I like as a fighter, but his fighting style is more like wait, pick you off, like type
That
of
was his
deal.
best win.
It's not, yeah, it's his best win, and not the same striking style as Ponzinibbio. Um, so I think, and then right after that, he fought Neil Magny, and then he lost to Neil Magny pretty bad. All the sharps were on Magny, and I was thinking, oh, Jing Liang's gonna come in and own this kid up, because I mean, I think at that time Magny hadn't fought for a while, but yeah, that didn't go down
I
that
can't
well.
remember if neither guy kicks very well. I think Leach kicks. I can't. Man, it's been a while since I've seen Ponzinibbio fight. I
Yeah,
don't remember if he's a good kicker or not, but I wonder.
Ponz Ponzinibbio does have some kicks, but the thing with him is like I don't know if he's going to use them that much in this fight or not. Like he's had so many injuries and illnesses. Like I can't even name them all. It's like at least 5 different things that have been wrong with him. Like a leg issue. He had like a broken hand or something. He's had like health issues like aside from injuries. So who knows if he's going to use his kicks, but I think his speed and accuracy and his power is going to be enough to hit
Yeah,
and
it looks
and
like he's
TKO the
a more
Leech,
active
since
puncher.
the Leech is always getting hit in general by guys who are not as good of a striker as Ponzinibbio. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Give me
Yeah.
Ponzinibbio. I like Ponzinibbio by plus 150, I believe it was when I took
For
it.
the knockout.
Actually, I took it inside the distance because the knockout was like plus like 130 or something like
Yeah.
that. And I think that like Ponzinibbio, I don't expect him to submit the leech, but he has what's it called? He does have a bunch of submissions on his record, if I remember correctly. Actually, well, six. He has six submissions, and he's a black belt. So I don't expect him to submit the leech, but I just took I think it was opposite. It was like plus 130, or I don't know. But anyway, I'm taking the plus money on Ponzinibbio inside the distance instead of the knockout because it was only a 20-cent difference, and I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Okay. Well, should be a banger though. Say that.
Hmm.
The next one, I'm hoping for it to be a banger as well. However, these two guys are a little bit older on the older end of the spectrum. Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. Condit is negative 165. They come back on Matt Brown is plus 145. Um, Again, another one of these things where like how old are you? You know,
Hmm.
and that's pretty much the main question here is how old are you and how much older are you than the other guy? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Like, um, I'm gonna lean towards Carlos Condit. Um, just because Brown tends to just, uh, Brown's been getting finished a lot. Um, and shit, yeah, I really don't know. They both have been getting finished a lot too. So, it's another one. Like I said, how can you really tell? In Carlos's most recent fight, he looked like he's still got some pretty decent footwork and a decent chin, but in the end, that's against Court McGee, who's not really a big puncher. Um, and yeah, I mean, what's the breakdown? Everybody knows who these two guys are, so it's not really much to break down. They both are pretty violent fighters in their heyday, but um, it's just it's just a matter of who's more faded, and I really don't know who that is, who's more faded. So, my heart is probably gonna pick Carlos Condit, but just because he's 4 years younger. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Carlos Condit, but I don't really have much kind of contribute to the result of this fight.
Yeah, I already have a bet on this fight. I'm taking the total in this fight. Actually, I'll explain why. I'm sorry.
Over or under?
The under. I'm taking let's see here. Where did I put it at? Um Here it is. I have Matt Brown, Carlos Condit under 2.5 at plus 105. I waited because I was just waiting to see where it was going to go. It was at plus, I think it was at plus 120 or plus 125, and I was just waiting. I have that same line in like parlays, but I was waiting to bet it straight. I wasn't sure where it's going to go, and then I was like, oh shit, it's losing its value, so I'll just take the plus 105. So yeah, I think it's going to end inside the distance under 2.5. Um, they're both aggressive. Matt Brown is more aggressive, and Matt Brown's cardio is not up to par anymore. As we saw in even his last fight, after that first round was over, he was like a different dude, and he was easily finished by that prospect in the second round. He hurt the prospect. I can't remember his name, but he hurt that dude in the first round, and I think he dropped him or Super
Miguel
Wall.
Baeza.
Yeah, Miguel. He was like on the verge of finishing him, and then he
Yeah,
recovered. And in the
almost
second
did.
round, he was Matt Brown was done, and then he was just easy pickings at that point.
I feel like
So
that might happen in this fight too. Somebody's gonna get hurt early, and then from that point on, like, okay, then they're gonna be up in the air.
yeah, and if anything, Carlos Condit still has good cardio, and he's still dangerous. He's still the natural born killer, except for he can only do that with against certain people. And one of those types of people he could do that against, still be the natural born killer, is against someone like Matt Brown, who is also a killer, but he lacks cardio and he eats a lot of shots. So as far as Carlos Condit, I mean, if I had to choose a side, I'm definitely going to choose Carlos Condit. But I like the fight to end under 2.5. What is Carlos Condit's money line? Not money line. His prop line. His knockout. Let's see. Condit TKO is plus 210. That's probably the better side.
You
But
know what's always been constant about Matt Brown too? That he's always been weak to the body. So
mhm.
maybe Carlos is training that or something.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't even need to train. Just fucking like everyone knows about the body. It's like
Yeah, and I
he
think
kicks.
Carlos has been fighting southpaw a lot too, so that left body kick might be open.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's known for throwing kicks. Yeah, so I mean, even the better line is probably just Carlos Condit plus his TKO line actually opened at plus 435. That's crazy. Now it's at plus 210.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I took the under 2.5, but I mean, even a better value would be Condit plus 210 if you get that right now. His TKO line. Um, and then as far as you said, both of them have been getting finished lately, and then you mentioned Condit. Condit's only been finished by TKO once, and that was when he got injured. That was when he got his knee snap, like his knee got twisted around against Tyron Woodley. So
Mm.
basically, Woodley kicked his leg, and then it ended in a TKO because it wasn't the leg that got kicked. It was the leg he was standing on because the kicked leg was in the air. I think it was the left leg that he was standing on. That whatever leg he was standing on, it got twisted in the motion of the kick. So it spun him around and his knee got twisted, and then he was done. He was TKO due to knee injury. Um, aside from that, he's been in his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had a 5 fight losing streak. He got finished by submission 3 times against Damian Maia, Alex Oliveira, and then Michael Chiesa. And all those dudes know that if you take them down and you have good jiu-jitsu, you're gonna get them. Um, Matt Brown he used to use takedowns back in the day, but I don't think his cardio is going to be good enough to do that anymore. And if he does use his wrestling in the first round, it's going to make him more tired. He's not going to get a TKO from the top in Carlos Condit's guard. Carlos is going to make him work from the bottom and keep him busy. So
I don't think
yeah,
it's gonna hit the ground either way. I don't think, right? No, I don't think so.
yeah. So I mean, I don't think it's going to hit the ground. I think it's going to be
Unless
pretty much.
somebody just like dropped or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, the more we talk about it, the more I like Carlos Condit, and the more I actually want to bet his TKO line at plus 210.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll do that plus the under, which I already have.
Yeah, man. Just kind of recapping on my head, like, man, I don't really have too many picks on this card, just because of fights like these. But for me, I really don't know who I'm gonna pick on this one.
Mhm.
Might play for some action, but it's not something I'd recommend. So, okay, main event. We have a really good fight. This is a primetime fight. It's Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. Um, really high level fight against two guys who are just the top of the game when it comes to like boxing technique. Um, I really don't know how to play this fight, but what I do see is that both guys are very tough son of a bitches. So I'm going with the over 4.5 on this fight, which is set at I think negative 185. I don't think Max is going to finish Calvin, and I don't think Calvin is going to finish Max. Um, so just off the bat, that's what I'm going to be playing when it comes to the bets. As far as picking a winner goes, this one's a really tough one, man. Max, we all know Max is like Max has been a prodigy since he's been signed to the UFC. Like, dude is he's always been a really great boxer. Uh, throws a ton of volume. I mean, what's more to say? If you don't know who Max Holloway is by now, like Cater on the other hand, he's kind of man. I don't know. I mean, if Max comes in here with some kicking, I think that could be somewhere where he can kind of exploit, just because Calvin seems to be pretty heavy on that front leg. And we saw that against Moicano, where his front leg just kept getting kicked, and he kept trying to track down Moicano and kept getting his front leg kicked. So just because he's pretty heavy on it, especially when he kind of leads with the jab a lot. So if Max comes in with a kick heavy game plan, I can kind of see him using that as a tool for him to get the victory here. But I do see them standing and banging, so I'm not really sure here. Um, did Max kick very much in? Yeah, he actually did. He threw a ton of kicks against Volkanovski in the rematch. I liked what I saw against Volkanovski in the rematch, but what I didn't like was for the first time ever, Max kind of slowed down in a fight. When usually he's the type of guy that picks up the pace and kind of figures his opponents out in a 5-round fight. But in that fight, he looked good for the first 2.5 rounds. Then after that, he kind of got figured out, and Volkanovski started, kind of letting loose on his strikes, which is interesting because Volkanovski was the one that kind of chopped his legs down in the first fight, and then the second fight, uh, Max Holloway had the footwork to kind of solve that riddle, and he didn't get kicked as much as in the second fight. So, man, this is a really tough one, man. I really don't know. Holloway tends to stand very square. He switches stances. Calvin, he tends to stick to one stance, which is the orthodox. I think Max has more variety when it comes to like what is he gonna choose to come out with. Um, well, Calvin is a little bit more like meat and potatoes. Really sticks to the basics of boxing, but does the basics very well. Um, Man, yeah, I can't throw out a pick here, man. I really don't know who's going to win this fight. I know it's gonna be a good one. I think Kattar has more power. I think when he throws, he throws with a ton of power. He throws straight shots as well. And Max, he tends to get hit a ton, but Max he's got a really good boxing rhythm. Like I said, he throws a ton of volume, and he fights at a very off-speed rhythm. Like sometimes he'll throw things slow, and then he'll throw things sped up and kind of fuck with your speed. I think Max is going to be very fast, the faster guy here, and throws a ton of more variety here. But I think Kattar is he's going to have the power advantage here. So I think it's going to go to the scorecard, and I think it's going to be up to the 3 boneheaded judges to figure out who won the fight. And for me to pick a winner, it's going to be impossible to kind of sit there and predict what a judge is going to think. So it's going to be highly competitive. Um, Whoever wins this fight, it's not going to matter who I think is going to win. It matters what the judges pick. So give me the over 4.5 in this one.
I was just looking at the stats right now on Max Holloway because I know he did slow down, as you mentioned, in his last fight.
Yeah, surprisingly, because he doesn't do that very often.
Yeah. In let me see here. I'm looking at his. So he had Aldo there. So and then he had Ortega, who's just like a sitting duck for punches. Okay, so I'm not going to count his. I'm not going to count everything from Ortega and before because I'm going to count everything from 2019. So basically for the last 2 years. He fought Dustin. So in the last 2 years, Max is 1-3. He lost to Dustin Poirier at 155, and then he came back down to 145, and he beat Frankie Edgar. And then he lost twice to Volkanovski. All right. So starting with the Dustin Poirier fight, so those last 4 fights I just mentioned, all 4 of them went to 5 rounds. That's why I'm specifically targeting them. So against Dustin Poirier at 155, Max landed 181 significant strikes, and then he absorbed 178 significant strikes. Then against Frankie Edgar, he went back down to 145 to defend his title. He beat Edgar and he landed 129 significant strikes versus Edgar's 96 significant strikes on Max. And then he fought Alexander Volkanovski next in the first fight. So Max landed 134 significant strikes, and he absorbed 157 from Alexander Volkanovski. Then in the rematch, Max looked better for 2 rounds. he landed a total of 102 significant strikes, and he
He was
absorbed.
landing a ton of those knees in the rematch, right?
Yeah, and then Max landed 102 significant strikes versus 137 significant strikes that he absorbed. So he absorbed 178, 96, 157, and 137, and his strikes landed went from 181, 129, 134, 102. Um,
So
here,
they dwindled down.
yeah,
So
yeah. Um, Here he's fighting against Calvin Kattar, who is he's a better boxer. So there's kicks, yeah, like there's Max could kick. I want to say that Kattar also threw some kicks in this fight against Ige too. But like either way, whoever's kicking, they're not gonna. I don't think Max's kicks are gonna be devastating enough to like change the result of this fight. Um, I mean they'll help obviously, but they're not going to change the result. They're not like deadly kicks basically. Um, so I'm thinking that Calvin Kattar, I'm going to be picking him to win here. And let me before I get into why, I'm going to break down their height. So we have or their stats rather. Their height, we have Max Holloway's 5'11, Calvin Kattar's 5'11. Um, and then we have Max Holloway's reach. Everyone always talks shit about his reach. He's tall for the weight class, but he has a short reach. So he has 69. He's a 69. Oh, sorry, he has a 69-inch reach, and Kattar has a 72-inch reach. I think Kattar's reach is kind of short too for being 5'11, but maybe I'm wrong. But either way, he has a 3-inch reach advantage, which is going to come into play here because the majority of what these two guys throw are punches, and they're not going to be like Kattar's not going to get owned by grappling, by wrestling or jujitsu here. Um, his jab, he's more technical as a boxer. We have Max, who is a volume striker. He knows how to turn it up and stuff like that. But he's not like he does have good technique. But if we're talking just pure boxing here, especially when it comes to the jab, Kattar's going to own his ass in the jab every day. Max Holloway does have a good jab, but it's not. There's levels to pure boxing, and Kattar is the better pure boxer, and he trains at a good gym that's also on a roll right now. They have they have Kattar, they have Font, and then they also have one other guy who's in the UFC. I want maybe two other guys, but there's another dude I can't remember his name. He's a small guy, but he won his last fight as well. Their coach is named Tyson Chartier. They're doing well right now. And it seems like just this specific matchup is right where Kattar, it fits into his style, and um, Kattar wasn't able to like unload as much as he wanted to in his fight against Ige because he kept trying to go for like mix it up and go for takedowns and stuff like that. And Ige kept going try to mix it up and go for takedowns, and Kattar was like he wasn't able to kind of unleash his full boxing uh, strategy plus power and all that stuff. He wasn't able to unleash the beast as far as his full potential as a pure striker in that fight because he had to worry about the takedown there. And he landed 105 strikes on Dan Ige, and people were like, "Okay, I'm not sure about Kattar because we don't know how he's going to handle 5 rounds. He hasn't been 5 rounds before. He did just fine, and now that he's not going to have to worry about the takedowns, he's just going to be in his element of striking only, and him being the better boxer, and him being able to go 5 rounds and throw over 100 strikes in that fight, and he has more power than Max Holloway. I think this is going to be one of those spots where we're going to look back and we're going to be like, damn, Max Holloway lost again, and I should have noticed it because he's fighting a guy who is a little bit better than him at this specifics, at this one area of MMA. And maybe Max should have he should have like mixed it up and used his wrestling or whatever. He's not really great at wrestling unless you're hella tired. But people were gonna be like, oh yeah, he should have mixed it up. It was just like if he basically stood with the striker. He striked with the striker, and so I think that's what people are gonna say at plus odds. Let me open up the line. I already added Calvin Kattar to several parlays, money line and his decision line. I think he's going to win a decision line here, and this decision line is plus 350. Sorry,
Yeah,
not
it was
not
a really
350.
large line before that.
Yeah.
It's 300 now.
Oh yeah, it's 310 right now. Yeah.
But
So
I think before that it was like 360, 370 or somewhere in that range. But yeah, that was if I were to play it, that would have been it. I missed out on that line, but yeah, that's a good gamble as far as like that play goes. Because yeah, that's the odds are pretty nice on that, pretty juicy.
yeah. So I mean, think of it like this: if Max Holloway was plus 350 decision, you would bet that, right?
Wait, say that again. If Max was plus 300 for decision?
If Max Holloway is
yeah.
So if Max was plus 350 for decision,
no, yeah, that's an automatic play. That's an automatic play. I don't care who's it up against. I gotta play that.
Yeah. And this money line is getting closer and closer. It opened at minus 215 for Max Holloway. Now it's all the way up to or down to minus 150. Yeah. And if you think Kattar's going to win, which I do, even if you just slightly lean Kattar, if you think Kattar has a chance, it's close, you should take plus 300 or plus whatever, it's over plus 300. You should take that on Kattar. I mean, because he's likely going to win a decision if he wins. And even his money line, I mean, his money line still, it opened at plus 170. It's still plus 130. I mean, there's still value in that if you want to go that way too, just in case if he gets the TKO, like he did against against Shane Burgos in the third round.
Yeah, but Shane's there to be hit, man.
Yeah.
He fights with his hands down all the time.
But in saying that, I just went over his Max Holloway stats, right? Max eats over 100 shots.
That's true.
In 5-round fights, even against Frankie Edgar, who's like a little midget. He's a 135er, and he's still 100. He's still 896 significant strikes from Frankie Edgar. So anyway, even Brian Ortega, that fight ended. He wasn't able to go fight for the 5th round. And that was before Ortega was actually basically in the recent fight where Ortega won, he actually looked new and improved. But before that, everyone thought he was a sitting duck because of how he looked against Max Holloway. He's tall and long, but he's there to eat shots. And just 4 rounds, Brian Ortega landed 110 significant strikes on Max Holloway. So if Brian Ortega, back before he was actually decent at striking, if he could land 110 on Max, and Frankie Edgar's landing 96, other dudes landing 157, 137, 178, Kattar's going to land at over 100 strikes, and he does have the potential to get that TKO. But I feel confident in his money line, and I'm going to put some on his decision line at plus 300 something.
310. Yeah, I'm not mad at that play at all, actually. If I were to play this fight, that's actually exactly how I would play it, as far as like if I were to take a plus odds line, Kattar by decision. And yeah, I'm not mad at that at all. Like, actually, I probably will end up playing at that, but I don't know, maybe my fandom, like I'm a fan of Max Holloway, so it's hard for me to kind of bet against him right now. Just because I want to see him win so bad, but I like Kattar too, so it's like fuck, But that's why I'm going to settle with the over 4.5. But if I got some, if I feel like it, I might throw some money on that decision line myself too, just because the odds are pretty damn wide. And I think once that decision line, like if that decision line were to dry up to like plus 200 or 220, something like around that odd, like 220, is when I'll cease to play it. But at 310, like, you kind of have to play that, man.
Yeah,
those are some good odds. Like, you have to play it, because the fight likely goes to decision, just because both guys are like really, top of the food chain fighters. So, and if you really call it that, then that's kind of a coin flip. And you give me a plus 310 next to Kattar, I'll take it. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's a good fight though. Like it's a really really good fight. The main
Yeah.
event, yeah, this is very murky fight. Really kind of sees where Kattar really stands, just because Kattar has lost to some of the bigger fights he's had. He's kind of lost. So this is a really proving fight for Kattar to see if he's really up there, with the best. And Max Holloway is one of the best. So yeah, this is gonna be a very telling fight, and really excited to watch this one. But yeah, I do expect it to go over. So all right, let's recap your picks and my picks as well. Like I mentioned before, on this card, from a betting perspective, I don't really like it too much. Just because there's too many like unknowns for me.
Hmm.
But as far as my picks goes, I like the over 4.5 for the main event, Cater and Holloway. I like Amiv, his money line, and also him to win by decision. And then I like Lingo and Kilburn to finish each other before 3 round ends. And then I had like small. I had a well, actually, I had to pick on Akhmedov, but that's not on this card anymore. So and the rest of the card, I'm probably gonna play for some action, but it's nothing that I would recommend. So, overall, yeah, this card is not very good for me when it comes to betting. So those are just my main few picks, and that's about it for me. Oh, you know what? My bet. And I'm gonna play a small bet on Buckley by decision.
Okay.
And then I already have a small bet on Dusko Todorovic. But yeah, if you they're just not something I recommend. So those are my plays on the card so far. Then I might spread a little bit of money on that decision line for Cater, but the rest of the way is just gonna be just action bets for me. So
Yeah. So I'm still trying to get my lines added to this document here. So one bet I have is so the stuff that I already made, basically the best I already made. Matt Brown and Carlos Condit under 2.5 at plus 105. So I have that for risking 100. I have Ponzinibbio inside the distance at plus 150. I have that at for 50. I have $50 on that.
mm.
And then I have Nasruddin Imavov, his money line at plus 156. I have 100 on that. Then I have Amiv parlayed with Sarukian, who fights on Wednesday. So I have 300 for 351 on that. And then so the last bet I have is a parlay as well. It's Matt Brown and Carlos Condit inside the distance plus sorry, was it inside the let me double check. I have it. Sorry, it's Matt Brown and Carlos Condit under 2.5. I got that at plus 140. So that's parlayed with Ponzinibbio inside the distance at plus 155, and then Felipe round 3 decision at plus 195. So I have $50 on that, just for like one of those. I mean, I think all three of them are gonna hit, but it's like one of those more of a long shot since they're all props. So that's $50 for 852.
Okay.
But yeah, so and then I want to add a bet on Felipe decision plus 220, I believe it is, and then Condit TKO at plus 210 we talked about both of those during the
Yeah, that's
cast.
true. Yeah, you know what? I might throw a little money on that too for some action. What is it? Was his face by decision as well? Carlos Felipe. So
Yeah.
not too much money, but they're heavyweights over after all. But yeah, I might do the same for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the plus odds. So.
Yeah, nothing. There's nothing that I wanna. Actually, I forgot that I mentioned. We just finished talking about the Kattar fight. I said I wasn't gonna go big on anything on this card. I'm not gonna go big on Kattar, but I'm gonna have maybe like I don't know. I'm not sure how. I want to at least have maybe at least 300 on Kattar. Um, a big bet for me would be like 1,000 or 1,500. So I think the most I'll have on Kattar is probably like 300 or maybe 400 or something like that. A mixture of his money line and his decision line at that juicy price. But yeah, so there's nothing I want to go big on this specific card. No, yeah, same thing with the next two cards as well.
Okay. Well, it's only 4. I don't know, it's only 4 days away from the Wednesday card, so we'll break down. We'll break down that one next, and then we'll good luck to this card, and then we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Later.